Because about the time when he came out with She's Gotta Have It, that was probably the longest period of time that basically black culture had really not been reflected in the Hollywood mainstream. I mean, I'm even surprised that blacks went to the movies at all. I can't believe that they, would go and not see themselves represented on them.
Quentin Tarantino is a master of modern cinema, famous for his loyal troupe of actors who pop up in his films time and time again. Think of them as the apostles in the Church of Tarantino, believers who submit to his vision and, in return, become cinematic legends. Their faith is rewarded with iconic roles, career comebacks, and a permanent place in film history. But what about the ones who don't come back? The ones who clashed with the director? Behind the genius, there are stories. Stories of A-listers who famously butted heads with the auteur. These aren't just minor creative disagreements. They're shocking tales of on-set tension, public call-outs, and bitter artistic disputes. These are the actors who committed a cardinal sin. They questioned the gospel of Quentin. They challenged his sacred scripts. They defied his authority. Or in one case, they just had a personal style the director found viscerally repellent. In Tarantino's world, the script is scripture, and the director's word is law. Those who forget this rule, no matter how famous, often face his frustration. Today, we're counting down 5 actors who clashed with Quentin Tarantino and exposing the shocking stories behind the fallout. Coming in at number 5 is an actor who represents a unique kind of frustration for Quentin Tarantino, the one who got away. Not once, but twice. This isn't a story of on-set brawls, but of a fundamental clash of artistic philosophy. A tale of rejection that left one of Hollywood's most powerful directors disappointed. The actor in question? None other than the Italian stallion himself, Sylvester Stallone. Tarantino has always held a deep admiration for Stallone. He saw him not just as an action star, but as a true auteur who, much like himself, willed his own career into existence by writing the perfect role for himself in Rocky. Tarantino even called Stallone an inspiration. This was a creator he respected, an icon he desperately wanted in his cinematic universe. And he tried. The first attempt reportedly came in the mid-90s, during the casting for his most mature and underrated film, Jackie Brown. Tarantino is said to have offered Stallone the role of Louis Gara, the laid-back but unpredictable ex-con. It was a key part, and Tarantino apparently saw Stallone as the perfect fit. But Stallone said no. The role, of course, went to Robert De Niro, who was fantastic, but you can only imagine the different energy Stallone would have brought. A decade later, Tarantino came knocking again, this time with a role that seemed tailor-made for a tough guy icon, the charming, manipulative, and psychotic stuntman Mike in Death Proof. Once again, Tarantino thought of Stallone. And once again, Stallone shut him down, this time in no uncertain terms. Stallone's reasoning was personal. As a father, playing a character whose hobby was murdering young women in his car was a bridge too far. "There's no way," Stallone stated firmly in an interview. The moral line was drawn. The part went to Kurt Russell, who delivered a chillingly effective performance. The conflict between them also extended to their views on storytelling, specifically involving Stallone's most iconic character, John Rambo. Tarantino was a fan of First Blood, but he preferred the novel's ending where Rambo dies. He felt Stallone's choice to let the character live was a creative cop-out, and even told him so directly. Stallone recalled the exchange. Quentin Tarantino said, "You're a coward. You should have killed him." Stallone's response was pure business. "Quentin, you're a lunatic. I want to do some sequels, brother." This perfectly sums up their different philosophies. Tarantino, the purist, prized brutal artistic integrity. Stallone, the franchise builder, understood the value of a recurring hero. So, does Tarantino hate Stallone? No, but he remains a persistent source of professional frustration, the titan who remains just outside his grasp. At number 4, we Have a clash of titans that went down on the set of one of Tarantino's most ambitious and controversial films, Django Unchained. This wasn't an actor refusing a role, but an Academy Award winner who, after accepting the lead, found himself in a brutal battle of wills with his director. The man who dared to challenge the king was Jamie Foxx. The tension started before the cameras even rolled. Foxx wasn't Tarantino's first choice for Django. The part was written for Will Smith, who turned it down. When Foxx stepped in, he came with the swagger of a modern superstar, a persona that Tarantino found totally wrong for the character. From the first rehearsal, the conflict was obvious. Foxx was reading his lines with a cool confidence, bringing his own celebrity persona to the role of a slave. Tarantino wasn't having it. As Foxx later told Howard Stern, Tarantino pulled him aside, closed the door, and let him have it. "What the fuck is that?" Tarantino demanded. "Listen, all of this shit, you have to be a fucking slave, okay? He's a slave. He's not cool. You come in with your fucking Louis bag and your fucking Range Rover. He's a fucking slave." And then he becomes the hero. But lose that shit. The message was crystal clear. Foxx had to strip away every ounce of his 21st century cool and find the broken man who would eventually rise to become a hero. Tarantino's demanding style was relentless. The on-set environment for Django Unchained was notoriously intense, with its subject matter requiring actors to go to some very dark places. Leonardo DiCaprio famously struggled with the racial slurs in the script, and both Foxx and Samuel L. Jackson had to coach him through it. Jackson reportedly told him, "Get over it, motherfucker, it's just another Tuesday." This is the crucible where Tarantino works. He demands total immersion and unflinching commitment. Foxx, who was used to having significant creative input as a leading man, found himself in a system where the actor is a tool for the director's singular vision. Despite the on-set conflicts, Foxx has said he would work with Tarantino again 1,000 times, recognizing that the director's tyrannical approach ultimately served the film. The stories from the set, however, paint a picture of a relationship pushed to its limits. Jamie Foxx learned the hard way that in the Church of Tarantino, there is only one God, and his name is Quentin. At number 3, we have a story that's less about hate and more about heartbreak. It's a tale of loyalty, tested, and a friendship strained to the breaking point. This isn't a one-time collaborator, but one of Quentin Tarantino's most iconic actors, a cornerstone of his cinematic universe, who pushed the director's patience to its absolute limit. This is the story of Michael Madsen, Madsen's Place. In the Tarantino pantheon is legendary. His portrayal of the sadistic Mr. Blonde in Reservoir Dogs is unforgettable. He was part of the original crew. Tarantino even wrote the role of Vincent Vega in Pulp Fiction, specifically for him, though Madsen had to turn it down, a decision he later regretted. Their bond was so strong that Madsen appeared again in Kill Bill, and later, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. They were brothers in arms, which is what makes the events on the set of The Hateful Eight so shocking. The film was a grueling production, shot largely in a single location during a manufactured blizzard. Tarantino had once again written a part specifically for Madsen, that of the quiet cowboy Joe Gage. But the Michael Madsen who showed up was not the professional collaborator Tarantino remembered. Madsen reportedly arrived on set unprepared. He complained about the remote location and the harsh weather. Worse, he began to question his character's motivations. A huge no-no for a director who believes every nuance is already on the page. For Tarantino, an actor questioning the script is like a priest questioning the Bible. It's a lack of faith. The tension was made worse by the infamous script leak for The Hateful Eight a year earlier. Tarantino was furious and initially canceled the movie. He had given copies to only 3 actors, Tim Roth, Bruce Dern, and Michael Madsen. Madsen found himself on the hot seat, as he put it, and though Tarantino eventually cast him, The suspicion lingered. On set, Madsen's behavior seemed to confirm Tarantino's fears about his commitment. His perceived unprofessionalism grated on everyone. This story is a cautionary tale. It proves that no one, not even the most beloved members of Tarantino's inner circle, is immune from his wrath if they don't respect the work. The bond between them was forged in the fire of independent filmmaking, but it was nearly destroyed in the icy blizzards of The Hateful Eight. Luckily, they have since patched things up, but the conflict on that set remains a dark chapter in their long friendship, a reminder that even apostles can fall from grace. Our number 2 spot is reserved for a truly bizarre case. This isn't a story of an on-set feud or a clash of egos. In fact, Tarantino has never even worked with this actor. This is a tale of a pure, unadulterated, and almost comically intense personal dislike, a 40-year grudge held against a minor character in an 80s horror film. The object of Tarantino's enduring allergy is an actor named Miles Chapin. Who is Miles Chapin? He's not exactly a household name. He had a modest acting career and left the industry in the early 2000s. But in 1981, he played a role that would unknowingly earn him a lifelong enemy in a young movie-obsessed video store clerk. The film was Tobe Hooper's The Funhouse, and Chapin played Richie, the wimpy, creepy, bespectacled best friend. For most people, Richie was a forgettable character. For Quentin Tarantino, he was an affront to his very being. In his 2022 book, Cinema Speculation, Tarantino unleashes a torrent of vitriol on the unsuspecting Chapin, declaring that he is an actor I've always been allergic to. He describes the character as annoying as usual, but his hatred goes beyond the performance. It's personal. What was Chapin's unforgivable sin? According to Tarantino, it was his fashion sense. Chapin goes through. The film with a sweater tied around his neck, Tarantino wrote, which in those days was egregious enough for me to hate him on sight. You heard that right. The preppy gesture of tying a sweater around one's neck was so offensive to Tarantino's sensibilities that it sparked a decades-long one-sided feud. This isn't a director critiquing a performance. This is a raw, primal reaction to an actor's very presence. This level of personal animosity towards an actor he's never met, based on a minor role from decades ago, is both hilarious and terrifying. It reveals the depth of Tarantino's obsessive nature. His mind is a vault of cinematic moments, and for some reason, Miles Chapin's sweater-draped neck in The Funhouse occupies a particularly dark corner. In a strange, backhanded way, Tarantino does offer a sliver of a compliment, though it's dipped in acid. While I've never liked Miles Chapin, he admits, you can't deny he is perfectly cast as shitheel Richie. It's the ultimate Tarantino insult compliment. You're perfect for the role because I find you inherently detestable. Miles Chapin has the strange honor of being on Tarantino's bad side without ever stepping on one of his sets, all because of a damn sweater. And now we arrive at the number 1 spot. This is the big one, the legend, the story that has been whispered in Hollywood for over 30 years. This isn't just a feud, it's the ground zero of Tarantino's on-set authority, a baptism by fire for the first-time director. It involves a drunken rage, a fist fight, and a public firing. The man who holds the title of the actor who most famously clashed with Quentin Tarantino is the notoriously volatile, old-school tough guy, Lawrence Tierney. The year was 1991, and a young Quentin Tarantino was directing his first feature film, Reservoir Dogs. For the role of the gravelly-voiced crime boss, Joe Cabot, he cast a legend, Lawrence Tierney. Tierney was the real deal, an actor famous for playing villains since the 1940s, with a reputation for being just as tough off-screen. Tarantino thought he was adding authentic old Hollywood grit to his film. What he got was a complete nightmare. From day one, Tierney was, in Tarantino's own words, a complete lunatic. By that point in his life, the veteran actor was erratic and volatile. Tarantino decided to shoot all of Tierney's scenes during the first week just to get them over with. This meant that Tarantino's first ever week as a director was spent wrangling a man he said needed to be sedated. Tierney was disruptive, forgot his lines, and was openly hostile, creating a toxic atmosphere. The breaking point came at the end of that brutal first week. The two men got into a heated argument that escalated into a full-blown fist fight, a first-time director in a physical altercation with his veteran star. In that moment, Tarantino knew he had to assert his authority. Right there in front of the entire crew, he did the unthinkable. He looked at the belligerent old star and yelled, "You're fucking fired!" The reaction was immediate. The entire crew, who had suffered Tierney's behavior all week, burst into spontaneous applause. It was a moment of pure validation. The 28-year-old director had stood up to the bully and reclaimed his set. Panic quickly set in, as Tarantino thought his career was over, but producer Harvey Keitel intervened with the studio and saved the day. In a horrifying postscript during the filming period, Tierney was arrested after shooting at his nephew in a drunken rage. He had to be bailed out of jail for a day just to finish his remaining scenes. The confrontation with Lawrence Tierney became a defining moment in Tarantino's career. It was his first and most brutal lesson in the necessity of absolute directorial control. The incident cemented his reputation as a director who would not tolerate disrespect on his set. The story of Lawrence Tierney is the ultimate cautionary tale. He was the first to truly challenge the director's authority and was publicly excommunicated for it. So there you have it. 5 Hollywood stars, 5 shocking stories of conflict, and 1 uncompromising director. From the quiet frustration of a rejected role to the chaos of an on-set brawl, these actors all, in one way or another, clashed with Quentin Tarantino. There's Sylvester Stallone, the respected icon who remained, an admired but distant what-if. Jamie Foxx, the superstar who was brutally reminded that the director, not the actor, is king. Michael Madsen, the loyal apostle who strayed from the path but ultimately found his way back. Miles Chapin, the unwitting actor whose 80s fashion earned him a 40-year grudge. And towering above them all is Lawrence Tierney, the ghost of Reservoir Dogs' past, whose violent implosion served as the foundational myth for the Church of Tarantino. These stories reveal the core truth of working with one of cinema's greatest artists. To enter Tarantino's world is to submit to a singular vision, where brilliance and brutality can go hand in hand. Those who embrace it often become legends. Those who fight it find themselves on the outside looking in. So what do you think? Were these actors out of line, or was Tarantino's behavior too extreme? Which clash on this list shocked you the most? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this look into Hollywood's biggest feuds, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.